Meanwhile, gents, Game 2 of the NBA Finals is tonight in the Bay. Jason Tatum scored just 12 points in Game 1, shooting 3 for 17. Over the last two postseasons, though, he scored fewer than 20 points 5 times and followed that up by scoring at least 30 points in the next game. You figure he will get going. Warriors have never lost the first 2 games of a playoff series under Steve Kerr, and they're looking to avoid becoming just the third finals team in history to trail 2-0 with both games at home. Previous to the 95 Magic, the 93 Suns. Golden State 4-0 following a loss in these playoffs. They've outscored teams by 14.5 in those wins, tied for the 6th best point differential after a loss for any team over the last 50 postseasons. As NBA analyst Cory Alexander joins us once again. So the Celtics, as we know, they made 21 three-pointers in Game 1. They went 9 for 12 from downtown in that fourth quarter. But, Cory, what is a sustainable offensive game plan, one that doesn't need fourth quarter heroics? What are you looking for tonight in terms of really a complete game from Boston?
Well, let me start with happy Sunday, Hannah. And, of course, the 21 made three-point field goals was not sustainable for the Boston Celtics. They can't do that and win a 7-game series against the Golden State Warriors. But what they can do is do what they've been the best at all postseason long, being the best defensive team in the NBA throughout the playoffs. And when they do that, they can't give up those easy opportunities to Steph Curry in the first quarter. They have to defend the way they did in the fourth quarter, where they held one of the most dangerous offenses ever to only 16 points. So blowing out the Warriors in the fourth quarter gave them an opportunity to win Game 1, but they did that defensively. They're going to have to do that for 48 minutes if they want to win Game 2.
Another thing, Cory, that really helped them is it was the players outside of the Jays that stepped up for Boston in that final frame. On the other side, though, Steph Curry didn't get nearly as much help from his supporting cast. So who among the Warriors, in your estimation, needs to play much better tonight in order for the Dubs to tie the series?
Well, there are a number of guys that need to play better for the Warriors, but you start with Klay Thompson. And Klay Thompson may be the best 3-and-D guy that we've ever seen in NBA history. And right now, the D is not there for him. He's not getting the job done defensively. Boston attacked him. Specifically, Jaylen Brown went after him in the fourth quarter to start the fourth quarter, where the Celtics were able to make that historic comeback. So I believe it's going to be Klay Thompson that has to step up on the offensive end of the floor, but they need to get the production from Jordan Poole coming off the bench and Andrew Wiggins as well.
What about Draymond? Draymond's got to play better, right, Cory?
Well, Draymond has to continue to do Draymond things. And when he's left open, he doesn't necessarily have to take threes, but he has to be more of a playmaker, getting into the painted area, finding his teammates, and doing what Draymond does best. He's a point forward at best, oftentimes a point center, and he's got to be more of a playmaker for his team to be successful.
And as he said, making them feel that defensive presence on each and every possession. Cory Alexander breaking down Game 2 tonight. Cannot wait. Coming your way.
And Windhorst. Hi, Wendy. I want to talk about that game right there and the message, right? What message is Steve Kerr going to deliver to his team after they look at that film from last night?
Well, I have to say, Elle, I'm at the Chase Center, and it's dark. That's okay. It's only 1-0. And when the Warriors look at the film, what Steve Kerr is going to show them, and all of those Al Horford three-pointers was a result of sluggish and lazy closeouts from the Warriors defense. They were paying so much attention to Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, as was part of their game plan. They just were not able to get out to the big man on the perimeter. And as they look at Derek White, who also victimized them with three-pointers, some of them in transition, they just didn't respect the Celtics' outside shooting. Now, the game plan that the Warriors went with in Game 1 was to really focus on Jason Tatum. And Jason Tatum did not shoot the ball well, but he had 13 assists, and a big number that the Warriors are going to have to consider when they consider changes to their game plan for Sunday night. The Celtics are 17-2 this season when Tatum has 7 or more assists. So keep that in mind when you want to make him a distributor, as the Warriors did as part of their initial game plan.
Exactly, right? Because there's some things that the stat sheet just doesn't show. Ime Udoka has talked about that ad nauseum, doing the simple things that help your team. For more on that, let's get it over to Taylor Twellman.
Ooh, Elle, the Celtics win last night was a rarity in Game 1 of the finals on the road, but that's no guarantee for success in the future of the series. Boston is the 18th team to win Game 1 of the finals on the road, but only 47% of the previous teams to do so went on to win the title. Now, the road win was even more impressive with how Jason Tatum struggled to shoot the ball last night. but it didn't limit his impact. He finished with 13 assists, the most ever by a player making their finals debut, beating a record held by John Stockton, Michael Jordan, Isaiah Thomas. Boston was red hot, 13 for 19 on shots that came off of just Jason Tatum. Now, Tim, we welcome in NBA reporter Tim Bontemps. We just saw the impact that Tatum had on the game. Now, he struggled to shoot the ball. Post-game, what did he say about his performance?
Well, when he was asked how he felt about going 3 for 17 and the Celtics winning the game, Taylor, Jason Tatum said he was ecstatic. And the Celtics were ecstatic about the way this Game 1 went, and it went, just as Brian Winter said, perfectly into the way this team has been so successful this season, which is when Jason Tatum is made into a playmaker, he has gotten past the point where he tries to force it and try to go into the defense and score, and instead he makes the simple play. Now look, throughout this game, it wasn't like Jason Tatum was Chris Paul out there making picture-perfect passes and threading needles to try to set guys up. These were shots that, as Brian pointed out, the Warriors were letting the Celtics get. And the Celtics took advantage of them time and time again. Now, Golden State has gotten away with this in the past. We saw against the Dallas Mavericks in the last round in particular. They missed a lot of open shots from the three-point line. But the Celtics have shown throughout these playoffs that they are capable of getting hot from the perimeter. And when Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are playing within themselves and playing within the team structure, this team feels really confident about its chances. So I think going into Game 2, it's going to be fascinating to see. Are the Warriors going to keep Jason Tatum in that mode where he needs to potentially keep moving the ball around? Or are they going to stick to these shooters and try to make Jason Tatum into a scorer? That could be the thing that determines how this game goes on Sunday night.
Remember, Tim, Tatum scored just 10 points in game back on SportsCenter. Let's go out to the Bay where the Celtics took a 1-0 lead in the NBA Finals last night behind a fourth quarter where they outscored the Warriors 40-16. It was a balanced scoring night for the C's as the trio of Horford, Brown, and White all went for 20 points. Tatum shot just 3 of 17 from the floor, but he made a huge impact with 13 assists. SportsCenter on the Road is presented by Rocket Mortgage. We're now going to welcome in ESPN basketball analyst Monica McNutt. Monica, I know you were courtside working for the game, ESPN Radio last night, so you were there, I wasn't. What impressed you the most about that comeback from the Celtics?
Taylor, it's good to see you, my friend. And it had to be, without question, Jaylen Brown's contributions in the fourth quarter. He scored or assisted on 22 of the Celtics' points. But then secondarily to that, I would have to say that the Celtics' defense. Now, I know there's a crowd out there that will say the Warriors had looks that they missed, but part of the reason they missed is because of the length of the Celtics. When Ime Udoka decided to go small, not only did it pose some problems on the offensive end, as you saw Al Horford being able to be the 5 and orchestrate to a bunch of different three-point shooters, but I thought they did a good job of matching up with the Warriors as well. Now, we're going to have to see. I don't know that the Celtics can shoot 51% from the three-point line in another game, but Jaylen Brown told me post-game that this team knows what this stage is, and they've been working to get to this point all season long, and so they're just playing with a tremendous amount of confidence, and that's what you saw over that insane run to finish the ball game.
Monica, to your point, Jaylen Brown either scored or assisted on 20 of the Celtics' first 23 points of the fourth quarter. He easily put them on his back, to say the least. Now, on the other side of things, what stood out to you about the Warriors' performance last night?
You know, I kind of walked away from the ball game thinking, what happened with Draymond? And I mean this in the most complimentary way. He is such the pulse for that squad. And while his numbers don't necessarily blow you away often, and even last night he had 5 assists and 11 rebounds, although he was just 2 of 12 from the field, I felt like some of the energy that you saw from him in the second quarter and the third quarter, some of the muscle plays that got him excited, you didn't see late in the ball game. And there was just sort of a grit that I think you look toward him to kind of be the guy that creates for the Warriors that was missing late in the fourth. Now, granted, sometimes you run up against a buzzsaw, and that's what the Celtics were from behind the three-point line. And Draymond even said post-game, we played well for 42 minutes. We'll be okay. We all are certainly waiting for Game 2. But I just felt like there was a toughness that was sort of missing down the stretch from the Warriors.
I agree with you, Monica, because interestingly enough, it was his sound post-game putting the spotlight on the Celtics role players that now ultimately puts the spotlight.
What a fourth quarter it was for the Boston Celtics. There was so much that went into that, so many guys that stepped up. So, Richard, I'm going to start with you here. What was the biggest key to the Celtics' fourth quarter?
Well, look, I think Al Horford and his ability to kind of, just be a calming presence, right? And that's something that has been so, I don't want to say glossed over, but we forget that Al Horford is 30 800 years old. Like, this is not a guy in his prime. I know we've heard
it's his birthday today. We're going to do him like that?
Yes, 100%. That's how families do each other on birthdays. And so I love Al
36.
Horford, but people forget that he is well past his prime. He is closer to retirement than he is to anything else. And he has been so impressive going toe-to-toe with Giannis here in this series, being a difference maker, because it is so hard for bigs to play against the Warriors. And not only did he play, he dominated. 26 points?
Yeah.
26 points in the game. Like, you weren't getting this Al Horford when he was in Atlanta trying to get to the NBA Finals. So it's just so impressive what he did and how he did it for 48 minutes.
I'd have to agree. And a lot of times when you look at championship runs, you usually get role player games that are playing out of their mind. And that's exactly what you got from Al Horford and Derek White, potentially Marcus Smart consistently over the Eastern Conference, even in that final span. I think overall, the NBA is a make or miss league, and they made some shots in that fourth quarter. I mean, the point spread was, 40-16. They scored 40, held the Warriors to 16. They made 9 threes. When that happens, you put up 40 in the fourth.
You ain't losing.
You're going to be all right. You're
so
gonna be
making
just fine.
shots, it's make or miss, and when you're hitting.
It's a make or miss league, and they were taking some tough shots, meaning like the role players. Those are the guys you want to shoot
White
in the
knocked
fourth
down a
player.
huge shot.
The contested
shot.
On
Derek
Steph.
White was,
the pump
he was
fake.
hitting down when it mattered the most. I mean,
that one right there,
incredible.
Otto Porter fell asleep, though. I remember that play. I'm just like, they got to do a much better job of contesting these threes. They were somewhat contested, but not NBA Finals. I'm trying to win a championship-type contest.
But when you make shots on the road, Game 1 NBA Finals for a young squad, that is how you win.
That is less rested than the Golden State Warriors were. Perk, your biggest takeaway?
Well, you know what? I think Richard brought up a great point about Al. No, you really did, about Al Horford. Al Horford is who Draymond Green used to be for the Golden State Warriors, meaning the way that he was able to stretch the floor last night. Remember, the old Draymond, before they got Kevin Durant, we used to watch him knock down those wide-open shots from the three-point line and be able to have a 20 or 30-point night. Now he doesn't do that. We're watching Al Horford. Look, when Al Horford and those guys start to make shots, guess what? It opened up the driving gaps and give the isolation plays to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
But look, my biggest takeaway was the word trust by Ime Udoka. Peyton Pritchard played 8 minutes in that fourth quarter. The way he stuck with his bench and the way that he believed in his bench, Derek White and those guys, when he believed in those guys and left them out there on the floor, it spoke volumes not only to Ime Udoka but to the team. Because when Jason Tatum came back in, he wasn't trying to play hero ball, let me take you home. He became a role player at that point. So the word trust and Ime Udoka and that Al Horford is playing like Draymond Green used to play.
Well, it seemed like the uh-oh for the Golden State Warriors was when Steph was going nuclear in the first quarter, the Celtics were still in the game. At halftime, when it seemed like the Warriors were playing their hearts out, the Celtics were up by 2. So let's take a look at